24, he stated that Israel was engaged in the, quote, deliberate targeting of doctors, nurses and hospitals in Gaza. Professor Maynard led the first UK medical mission into Gaza in December 2023 with MAP, and now he's a chair of MAP, working in hospitals under extreme and often dangerous conditions. Now, not many people know this here, but he was injured in an attack on the Nasser hospital where he was working. His accounts of treating mass casualties and confronting shortages of food, medicines, power and water have drawn wide attention in the UK and beyond. In his interview in the Church Times, he mentioned that it's too dangerous for medical staff to even leave the hospitals in Gaza, and most medics survive on one meal a day of rice and some water. And as we know, approximately 1,400 medics have been killed, at least. The hunger was such that some medical staff often fainted on duty. Again, we don't see that, especially on the BBC. In the same interview from October 2025, Professor Maynard describes the Palestinian people as, and I think this is lovely, as truly beautiful and inspirational. Such a strong connection with the people there. In February 2025, he was rightly awarded the Humanitarian Medal by King Charles III for his work in Gaza. Nick, we are so honoured that you have agreed to speak at Eastbourne today, and we greatly respect the amazing work you have done for the Palestinian people. Thank you so much, Professor Nick Maynard.
Thank you very much for that. It's lovely being back in Eastbourne. I did work here as a trainee surgeon many moons ago, and I have very happy memories. I stand here today, I've got no political agenda at all. I'm here as a humanitarian, and I can very safely say it has been one of the great privileges of my life to be involved with providing care in Gaza, to be visiting there for many, many years. And it's a great, great privilege also to be so heavily involved with medical aid for Palestinians, about which Steve, the Chief Executive, spoke so eloquently just now. But I'm here today to tell you about what I have seen in Gaza in the recent years. I've been going out there for 16 years or so, but I've had multiple trips in the last 2 years working as a surgeon in the hospitals there. And I want to tell you what I have seen, the war crimes every single day, the genocide, the clear evidence of ethnic cleansing, which you don't hear from our media, you don't hear from our governments, who have remained silent about this. Today is day 945 since this military assault started after the appalling events of October the 7th. Let us not forget that more than 100,000 Gazan civilians have been killed by this military assault. Let us not forget that more than 300,000 have died from the excess deaths, from the cancer that's not been treated, from the heart disease that's not been treated, by the kidney disease, the liver disease, the strokes. Some people say it's more than 600,000. But I want to talk particularly about the direct targeting of the healthcare infrastructure there, the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics. We know that nearly 2,000 healthcare workers have been killed in the last 2 years. Many friends of mine have been killed out there. If you're a healthcare worker in Gaza, you are more than 3 times more likely to be killed than any other civilian. 75 healthcare workers have been killed in Gaza per 100,000 of the population. The equivalent number in Ukraine is 0.8. In Gaza, 75 healthcare workers per 100,000 of the population. We know that nearly 500 healthcare workers have been abducted in Gaza, illegally detained, tortured, many of them killed under torture. Friends of mine like Maysara Al-Rais, killed in November 2023, a doctor I taught as a medical student, a doctor who visited Oxford to do a master's, stayed in my house. He was killed in November 2023. The young plastic and reconstructive surgeon, Ahmed Makadma, who worked at Shifa Hospital in the early part of this military assault. His dead body was found together with his mother. They were naked, they were handcuffed with their hands behind their back, and they both had bullet wounds in their head. That was not collateral damage. They were executed by the Israeli military. The iconic orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh, whom I worked with at Shifa Hospital in May 2023, he was abducted, he was tortured, he was killed. And a Sky journalist who interviewed fellow detainees, who interviewed people who had been with him, who interviewed 2 people in the Israeli prison service, described how his mode of torture for the last 2 weeks of his life was being raped daily for 2 weeks until he died. Let us not forget that 20,000 children have been killed in Gaza in the last 2 years. That is an average of 30 to 35 children every single day for 2 years in Gaza. Just remember that figure, 30 to 35. The equivalent number in Ukraine is 0.7. In the Iraq war, 0.6. In Syria, 3. In Afghanistan, 2. In Gaza, 30. More than 40,000 children have lost one or both parents. Nearly 5,000 children have lost at least one limb, some of them 2, some of them 3 limbs. Let us not forget little Habiba, the 11-year-old girl, the most distressing case I've ever been involved with in 40 years of practicing as a doctor. Little 11-year-old Habiba, who suffered severe chest injuries, who I spent the whole night operating on, who died not of her injuries, but she died of starvation. She died because of the blockade imposed by Israel on Gaza, not letting food in. A preventable death. Let us not forget little 7-month-old Zainab, who needed formula feed because her mother was too malnourished to breastfeed her. Little Zainab, who died of starvation whilst I was working in Nasser Hospital last summer. Little Zainab, but all she needed was formula feed, but there was no formula feed in Nasser Hospital at that time. And what made that worse? What made it worse was that 4 days before she died, some American doctors came into Gaza to join the MAT team that I was working with. And they knew there was a shortage. They brought in formula feed. They packed their bags with containers of formula feed. And at the border, every single container of formula feed was removed by the Israeli border guards. They didn't take anything else. They just took that formula feed. That formula feed which could have saved that little girl's life. Let me tell you about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that obscenely named organisation that was set up by the US and the Israeli government, supposedly to provide food distribution in Gaza, once they'd banned UNRWA. These were kill zones. These were death traps. On my 3rd day at Nakba last summer, a 12-year-old boy died on the operating table, that we couldn't save his life. He'd been shot by an Israeli soldier at this food distribution point, and he died under my hands on the operating table. On one day during that trip, 19 young boys were brought in, all of whom had been shot in the head and neck. Nowhere else, just the head and neck. Another day, they were all shot in the chest. Another day in the abdomen. Another day in the legs. On one day, They all came in having been shot in the testicles. Nowhere else, just shot in the genitalia. This was not coincidental. This was clear evidence of target practice by the Israeli military on these poor, innocent young boys. We know our media has been complicit. We know they've distorted what's happened. They've been silent about the war crimes and the genocide. We know our government has been complicit. We know all our institutions have been complicit in this. Our universities, our medical schools, our hospitals, our royal colleges, the General Medical Council, the British Medical Association, they have all been silent. And in the words of the Lancet Medical Journal, silence equals complicity. It remains unconscionable that doctors, medical institutions that I've described can be silent about this. They have an ethical obligation to call these atrocities out. I've got more to say. Let me quote you an interview with an Israeli soldier about a year and a half ago. And I'm going to quote exactly what he said. I heard him say this. I am excited to enter Gaza today. I am praying that we eliminate Hamas as a terrorist organisation. Yesterday, the guys from the battalion eliminated dozens of terrorists. And I expressed a request to take part in the killing as a doctor under the framework of preventative medicine. One of the other medics in the army corrected me and said, it's not humanitarian medicine. It is under the framework of public health. On second thought, this is the Israeli medic saying, on second thought, he's right, isn't he? After all, we are talking about exterminating vermin and other loathsome insects. I would urge you to go and look up on Google, Healthcare Workers Watch, the document they've published about the deliberate torture, the deliberate killing of healthcare workers who've been detained in Palestine. There's meant to be a ceasefire at the moment, but since then, nearly 2,000 Gazans have been killed since October last year. Nearly 100 children have been killed. Babies have died of hypothermia. The aid that the Israelis promised is not been going in. Whether we are individuals in Eastbourne marching every single Saturday in support of the Gazans, whether we're journalists, whether we're politicians, whether we're doctors, whatever we are, every single one of us will be defined by how we have reacted to events in Gaza. The killings are still going on. The torture is still going on. Hussam Abu Safia, the medical director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, is still detained in prison, being tortured. We're not even sure he's alive. I am proud to stand with you all in Eastbourne today. I am proud to stand up for the Gazans, for our Palestinian friends. And I'm proud to call out the hypocrisy, to call out the double standards of our shameful politicians, of our shameful media, and to call out the war crimes that I have seen every single day in Gaza, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing. Thank you very much indeed for listening. Whether we are